You know, I have to give it to IGN. Usually, usually, they're shills. Like they're shilling for some major AAA studio in order for you to go out and spend your money on generic bullshit, right? But every once in a while, like, as they say, the clock's right twice a day. And every once in a while, IGN is right because they just dropped this article. I hope Suicide Squad kills the cursed looter shooter trend, and we're gonna run through the article really quick, and then I'm going to give my honest thoughts on what we should do in regards to the current state of looter shooters. All right. So this is written by Simon Cardy. For me, the disappointment of Suicide Squad Killer Justice League isn't just about its quality. Is he the same guy who didn't fucking like it? Maybe it is. It's about what it's not as much as what it is. There's very little of what made developer Rocksteady's games so great in the past. Near unparalleled superhero power trips that sit alongside Insomniac's critically acclaimed Spider-Man series. True. It's also the latest in a frustratingly long line of beloved single-player championing studios delving into unwelcomed, loot-infested live service waters. It's been a perilous leap for many to take, with success limited to very few not called Bungie, and I hope we're now at an end of this detrimental trend that's plagued so many. In recent years, BioWare abandoned the comfort of its trademark deep RPG writing in favor of Anthem's cold, hollow, RNG-fueled exosuits. So, I'm going to make a video about Anthem one of these days, just talking about it. See, the problem with Anthem wasn't that it was hollow by design. The problem with Anthem is that in order to make Mass Effect Andromeda, or maybe it's the reverse, something was feeding off of something else. I want to say that Mass Effect Andromeda was the way it was because they pulled devs and money from Andromeda to shove into Anthem. Anthem ended up being the way in which it was because halfway through developing it, they stopped, realized that what they were developing was shit, which was, I think, the 1.0 version where the mechs couldn't fly. And then they took about a fourth of the developers and sent them back to Mass Effect Andromeda, and then kept the developers that were there to basically start over from scratch and create the flying system for the game. So it was basically BioWare not really understanding what it was that people wanted. One, we wanted a Mass Effect game that you put your heart, soul, and foot into. Two, we wanted a looter shooter game that was, in all honesty, super fun, which Anthem was in regards to flying around and living that that Iron Man power fantasy, but at the exact same time had a equipment system and a weapon system and a talent tree system and a mod system along the lines of Destiny or Warframe. Now, all of that was supposed to come. They were working on that to bring that to us, but EA, I believe, was the one who pulled the trigger and decided that they didn't want to spend money on Anthem 2.0, which is a shame, because I do believe that if Anthem 2.0 was made and it had come out, it would have probably landed somewhere between Destiny and Warframe for the type of people that it was going to be bringing in, because I, in all honesty, think that it's the most fun I've ever had in regards to just flying around a map. Just the ability to just fly around and be Iron Man. It's the closest we've ever gotten to an Iron Man game, which is one of the reasons why I absolutely love it. Anthem was the ultimate expression of that. BioWare veteran James O'Halloran told Rock Paper Shotgun they got away from everything. It's kind of like the anti-BioWare game, which is true. There have since been others chasing these online shooter trends that have rapidly gone out of fashion with each passing year. Arcane brought none of its best-in-class level design to the empty, vampiric streets of Redfall, which was trash. Crystal Dynamics promised much in its Marvel's Avengers campaign, but lost its way completely regarding its live service offerings. And most recently, Rocksteady traded in their expertly designed Gotham for a shallow metropolis. You know what's funny about the Marvel's Avengers game? If the Marvel's Avengers game was just a game without the live service side, it would have been decent. But it's the fact that it was always online. There were the live service elements. There were like loot boxes and a bunch of like other shit. Like it just it heavily took away from the game, because when you actually sit down and you play through the story is interesting. You know, what if Captain America died and the Avengers broke up and the villains won for like 5 years, and then these new heroes come along and start coaxing the old heroes out of retirement to come back and help them essentially save the world. But it ain't what we got. Suicide Squad's main problem isn't in its art direction, character design, or storytelling, although mileage may vary on that last one. That is true. The storytelling is definitely wishy-washy. Story-wise, in regards to Suicide Squad themselves, it's fantastic, but the way in which it uses the lore to treat a lot of the other characters sucks. These are all things we've come to expect and enjoy from Rocksteady, masters of their craft when it comes to creating superhero open worlds. But while it has largely delivered on that trio of creative disciplines, the studio's other notable strength, best-in-class campaign design, genre-leading combat system, engaging open worlds, are the areas in which Suicide Squad has stumbled. And that faltering is rooted in the pivot to creating a long-term content delivery machine, aka live service game, which is what I said at the end of my playthrough, which is the story doesn't end. There isn't any closure. There aren't any side missions or side stories that happen that introduce characters that could end up becoming members of the Suicide Squad. Season one being delayed for like a month makes absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. Season one should have been something that dropped with the game itself to continue the main story, or something that dropped maybe 3 days or 4 days after the game dropped. Because right now, what you're going to end up having is you're going to have a major drop off of people that are no longer playing your game because they've moved on to other things. They've moved on to Pal World, they've moved on to Helldivers 2, or they've moved on to something else that's essentially come out and caught their attention, and they aren't going to want to circle back and come back to play season one in a month. You'll have a couple people that probably do come back, but you already had such a small audience in regards to this game that purchased it. I think we saw something along the lines of like maybe it was like Pal World. Pal World was like something 100,000 or a couple million people currently playing the game, and Suicide Squad Killer Justice League on Steam was sitting at like 18,000. 18,000 does not make a successful live service game. 18,000 is probably less than what Anthem dropped with, and Anthem died off of those numbers. How long will the failure be allowed to persist before Rocksteady pulls the plug and this entire thing was a waste? Which is why I keep saying I don't see this game lasting past season 2. I don't see this game lasting past season 3. I think around season 3 they're gonna say like, hey, we're scuttling this game and we're taking all the resources and we're moving it over to the next Arkham game, which I hear that the next Arkham game is supposed to be like Battle for the Cowl or something along those lines. Here's hoping that's dope as shit. In the 9 years it's taken the London-based studio to finish work on Kill the Justice League. 9 years? 9 years. 9 years? They're working on this game before Batman Arkham Knight? What? Hold on. Hold on. When did Arkham City come out? Batman Arkham City came out in 2011. They've been working on this game, right, and Arkham Knight, fuck, I'm old. Arkham Knight came out in like 2014, 2015. But 9 years? 9 years? So in 9 years, you release this game to be an absolute fucking failure, while the Pal World devs worked in like a fucking basement for like 2-3 years and have basically made like $1 bajillion. in 9 years, I think the development time for Baldur's Gate 3 was half of that. You're telling me in 9 years, this is all you have to show for it? Hold on. When did we 2020? The Baldur's Gate 3 devs started working on this game. When they started working on this game? No. When they started working on Baldur's Gate 3? Divinity Original Sin. Larian fully started working on Baldur's Gate 3 in 2019. So you're telling me that Larian Studios was able to start working on Baldur's Gate 3 in 2019, and I think they had a demo version ready in 2020, and then it was in early access for the last 3 years. Then it came out in 2023. Larian Studios was able to do in half the time. I'm talking voice work, combat systems, art, the different worlds, the different paths, all of the different characters. Larian Studios was able to do and release what I would consider a AAA game in 4 years, and in 9 years, this is the best that you could do. That's fucking insane. That is truly insane. That's nuts. That's that is fucking crazy. Because in 9 years, look how many examples you can pull from in regards to live service games that have lived and died. You've got Outriders, Destiny, Anthem, Borderlands 3, not Redfall, not to mention all of the ones that are launched and die on Steam on a consistent basis. Like, hold on, let's go to Steam and let's do Looter Shooter. Right? Let's go to Steam and let's look at Looter Shooter. Let's look at examples, right? So we've got Division 2 still going on. Mostly positive, overwhelmingly positive, very positive, very positive. Look at all these Looter Shooter games. Mixed, very positive, overwhelmingly positive, Crab Champions. Like, look at all Warframe, Destiny, Suicide Squad, Risk of Rain 2, Deep Rock Galactic, Ghost of Tabor, Risk of Rain 2, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, another Ghost of Tabor, or I guess it's all the DLC stuff. What if we don't look for DLC? What about top sellers? Warframe is outselling Suicide Squad, Kill Justice League, and Warframe is a fucking free game. I think Warframe has a consistent like 1 million people across the world that play this game on a daily basis. Destiny 2 is in 3rd place, and it's also free to play, even though that free to play tag is low key a fucking lie. Risk of Rain 2, Deep Rock Galactic, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Borderlands 3, Tom Clancy Division 2, Risk of Rain, Ghost of Tabor, RoboQuest, Borderlands 2 is up here. Borderlands 2 came out in fucking 2012, and it's still on this list for best selling as of today. Payday 2, Crab Champion, Marauders. Like, look at all of these other games you have to compete with, and the fact that a good chunk of them are free to play and don't require $70 fucking dollars. That's why you only have 16,000 people playing your fucking game. Whew. Oh boy. Rocksteady created one of the most influential combat systems in the form of Batman Arkham's counter-based melee flow, which a lot of other games have basically borrowed from. And by a lot of other games, I do mean the Spider-Man games. Spider-Man games definitely borrowed the combat system from the Arkham games, and in my opinion, perfected it. Took it to the next level. Whereas Rocksteady was supposed to come back and take it to the next level, they decided to completely abandon the melee system of this fucking game. Sadly, it didn't pay off. Each gun feels fundamentally very similar to the next and last, with interesting perks, alternating fires, keeps at a real premium. The least you'd expect from a looter shooter is to have interesting loot to shoot with, but the focus on that in Suicide Squad just isn't quite there. I'm all for developers trying something new in an attempt to avoid things becoming stale, but successful new beginnings are rooted in a recognition of historic strengths. I wish Rocksteady had used its previous top-tier melee combat, yes, dense open world, yes, and thrilling storytelling experience as a base rather than shifting to what is an almost entirely different development format. People could talk shit about Gotham Knights as much as you want, but Gotham Knights' Gotham feels like an actual world. Like you could stand on a rooftop or sit on a gargoyle, look down, and see people walking about and see cars driving back and forth. And when you drop down, they react to you. If you're early on in the game, they treat you like a vigilante. If you're super late in the game, they treat you like a fucking hero. There are even people that will send out quips and comments like, "Aren't you Red Hood? Man, I heard you were dangerous." Or it's like, "Hey, Red Hood, like I love the fact that like you're cleaning up the streets. The real what the hell is that? No idea what the hell that was." It's like, hey, you're cleaning up the streets like, 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 like you should. That whatever that sound was completely threw off my train of thought. But in Metropolis, there's nothing. Metropolis is boring. There's nothing going on in the streets. There's enemies that just spawn in, you beat them, and then they spawn in again. The world doesn't really feel lived in. It doesn't change to adapt to basically, any of the things that you do in the story or any of the things that you do to prevent anything Brainiac does. It just remains static, and static is fucking boring. This challenge is something to the credit that Sony has managed well with PlayStation Studios. Time is given to each creative team to make that is one of the reasons why PlayStation should take over Destiny. And I'm really hoping that Bungie fails with the final shape and control lands in the hand of Sony so that Sony can hand the game over to the live service team and be like, hey, what do you need to make this game the best fucking looter shooter game imaginable? What do we need to do? Naughty Dog has become the standard bearer for the philosophy in the years that Rocksteady has spent making Kill the Justice League, but that isn't to say that they didn't attempt to branch out to multiplayer in that time. Either with Sony recently canceling a stuttering Last of Us Online project, we'll never know how this would have turned out. But if recent history has told us anything, it's that halting development before it rumbles on for years might have been the right move by PlayStation. Yeah, PlayStation is willing to cut their losses and pull the fucking cord if they feel as though this thing isn't working. Rocksteady wasn't. To really support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impact development on future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage, which is the situation Rocksteady finds himself in right now. So, with a live service game, you need to have a major portion of your studio consistently working on that live service game, right? That major portion of your studio is not going to be working on any of the single player projects you have on the side, which means if you have 500 people working in your studio, 175 of them are probably 225 of them, maybe 200 of them are dedicated to working on the live service stuff. They've got to fix bugs, they've got to fix network errors, they've got to create new content, new storylines, they've got to hire artists to draw new bosses, or maybe you're not going to create new bosses, you're just going to use the models that you currently have in game. Those people are just dedicated to that. The other 300 are the ones you're going to move over to work on a single player game. You split your studio in half, which means that the single player game is going to take longer to develop, or it can take the same amount of time to develop, but you're going to have bugs and other issues that if you had those other 200 people also working on a project, you'd probably be able to iron out and handle. No, I read that already. That's not to say the risks can't and shouldn't be taken, though if approached in a sensible, measured manner, interesting results can come from developers stepping out of the comfort zone and trying something new. Dipping their toes in the waters before diving headfirst in regards to PlayStation, Sucker Punch's Legends expansion in 2020, Ghost Tsushima's Welcome Online. Yes, it was. I truly do think that the way in which PlayStation has been doing their online co-op is the way you're supposed to go. Not the online co-op, but the God of War Ragnarok Valhalla stuff, fantastic. The Ghost of Tsushima stuff where you're basically in the underworld and you have to kill the Oni, but it's using the same type of combat systems from the main game, fantastic. There's another game that I am forgetting that also had co-op added to it. post-launch and people absolutely loved, it'll probably come to me later. Maybe it won't. I still want to see more Sucker Punch single-player stories, but this smaller scope experiment has at least given me confidence that they could make the looter shooter live service jump where others have fallen. And you don't have to do much. Like, you could have created a single-player game, and then at the end of the single-player game, you could have created a multiplayer type mission system inside the city where, just like the way in which Helldivers has 4 people running the squad, you could have a situation where you have 4 members of the Bat family, and then every single season a new character comes out, and then there are missions and objectives, and maybe this season the main enemy is the Penguin, and you got to take out his operations and deal with this and deal with that, and you got to work together in a 4-man squad. Guess what did that? Gotham fucking Knights. All you have to do is take the Gotham Knights formula and apply your rock steady spin. But you chose not to do that. You chose to be generic, which is in and of itself wild to me. I sympathize with all these developers, none of whom set out to make games that would go on to be considered dead on arrival. That is true. For those developers, a lot of these games are sink or swim. Either these games come out and they're fantastic, or these games come out and they absolutely fucking suck. But here's the thing: we've been here before. World of Warcraft, everybody wanted to be like World of Warcraft. So many games came out after World of Warcraft trying to basically recapture that secret sauce. They failed. Fortnite, we were here again, where when Fortnite came out, everybody suddenly wanted a battle royale game. How many battle royale games are no longer here with us and died within like 1 season or 2 seasons because they never got the traction that Fortnite had? Instead of trying to innovate and be different and do something unique, a lot of these studios just try and copy a formula that people have already thrown 900 hours into. Why would I move away from Fortnite when I've played every single season to play your game where I have to start over from the beginning? Why would I move away from Fortnite, who've already figured out the sauce and have made the sauce better and have made it more and more fun and dynamic, whereas going to play your game is basically playing Fortnite again during season 1? That's boring. Nobody wants to deal with that. That's why a lot of these games don't catch on. Why would I play Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League as a looter shooter when there are so many other ones that are available for me to go play, and a bunch of the best ones out there that I can go play right now are free? I think a lot of the corporate overlords look at the success of these other companies and go, I want a piece of that pie. I need some of that money. And instead of actually sitting down and creating something dynamic and serious with an honest to God plan, they just slap some shit together, add it to whatever their main genre is or whatever their main world is, or add it to whatever their legacy game is, and say, and try to use, for example, we're going to use Rocksteady. Instead of trying to create a multiversal Justice League game or a multiversal criminal DC game, you try to piggyback on the success and love people have for the Batman Arkham series and go, well, hey, what if I just, say that it's in the Arkham universe? I'm definitely going to get all these Arkham fans. No, because a lot of the Arkham fans don't want to play as anybody but Batman, because we've played as Batman 4 times already, and you made money off of us playing as Batman. Why would I not want to play as Batman and not live within that Batman power fantasy and suddenly play looter shooter where I have to either play it by myself with dumb AI or play it with like 4 other people? The only hope that we honestly have is the fact that the looter shooter dilemma, the looter shooter curse that we're currently living in, the looter shooter era, is just another era that's probably going to last us another year or 2. And a lot of these studios are going to lose enough money trying to chase this pipe dream that they give up on it. Like I said, we've seen it before with World of Warcraft, where all of a sudden nobody was doing MMO development anymore. Like how many MMOs tried to be World of Warcraft? Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars: The Old Republic, so many Warhammer Online. So many tried to use the World of Warcraft sauce, and it didn't work out for them at first. And then it was them moving away from World of Warcraft and finding their own identity, like Star Wars: The Old Republic, that they had their dedicated They're dedicated fans. Like, they found their niche. That's what you have to do. Stop trying to copy what somebody else is doing and do some shit that's unique. That's why a lot of these games that are coming out right now that are making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars and endearing themselves to so many fucking fans, a lot of those games are doing shit unique. Power World was like, hey, what if we did Pokemon, but we did Pokemon with guns, and then we put you on like this giant archipelago? Nobody's doing that. They made money. Larian was like, hey, what if we did like Baldur's Gate, but we took what we did with Divinity 2 original Divinity 2 and Divinity Original Sin, but we applied it to Baldur's Gate, and we just gave people just so many options for every single crazy idea that pops into their head, that they can live the fantasy tale that they want to live inside this universe. They went off and fucking did it. And then what happened when Larian went out and did that? Every single other studio that made RPGs was like, we're not gonna be able. We don't think, this isn't the new like peak. You can't expect us. You can't expect us to do what Larian did. Like, there's no way that we'll be able to match that level of craftsmanship, that level of content. Why not? Like to quote the fucking Obadiah Stane meme, Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a bunch of fucking scraps. Like, if Tony Stark is in a cave, then you're fucking Steve Jobs, who can hire 100 people that are about half the intelligence of Tony Stark to work together to create something that fucking works. But for whatever reason, we can't. For whatever reason, we're struggling. And me watching AAA studios fucking implode in my era rose so high only to tumble and fall and fucking shatter and be gobbled up by Microsoft and Sony is the funniest fucking thing ever. Because I have a question for all those studios out there that get gobbled up by Microsoft. Where you at? What games you working on right now? You working on anything, or are you basically being shuffled around to work on Microsoft's bigger franchises to make sure the bigger franchises are still running? Crazy, right? Crazy and fucking hilarious. But let me know what you think about this. Are you tired of looter shooters as well? Or are you old as fuck like me and you've essentially lived through so many studios, so many different genres going through a fire sale where everybody's trying to be like everyone, and then they throw a bunch of shit out there in the market and then all of it just fucking collapses? Like I said, we've seen it with World of Warcraft clones. We've seen it with the Fortnite clones. We even saw it with people trying to be as big as Dota or be as big as League of Legends. We have been through this cycle multiple fucking times. We are just living through the current cycle with looter shooters. And just like all those others, the clones will die, and the original games that became popular will continue to be fucking popular, and eventually they'll slowly start losing steam over time and die, and then something new will come out to take their place. But let me know what you think, comment down below, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.